Hi, this is Mr. Williamson, and this is the video Human Torso Part 2. In this, we're going to take a look mostly at the circulatory system and some of the minor things that you need to know for the test. If you have not already done so, I'd suggest you go back and take a look at Part 1 to take a look at the major organs of the torso and things. But this is Part 2. You're going to need your diagrams, and you're going to need your terms. I would also probably have a separate piece of paper. Remember to get credit for your diagrams. You're going to need not only them labeled, but the definitions. So pause the video whenever you need to, take notes, and take your time. Make sure you get everything down. So here we go. Okay, we're going to take a look at the circulatory system first. Now this is the torso. This is a diagram to show you how it works so you can get a sense of how it works. We're going to start with the body, all right? And you got to remember that the blood coming from the body is high in carbon dioxide, and it's going to be low in oxygen because the cells have already used the oxygen in it. So the cells have used the oxygen and put the CO2 back into it. The CO2 comes from the breakdown of glucose, cellular respiration. Oxygen is the final ion acceptor in the electron transport chain. Therefore, we get 36 or 38 ATP during the Krebs cycle, or the respiration in the mitochondria. So, again, low oxygen, high in carbon dioxide. And you need to know that, so make sure you remember. Now, any vessel, blood vessel that goes to the heart is a vein. So, coming from all the rest of the body, they all come together and they all end up going into the right atrium. Now, I realize that the right atrium in this case is on the left-hand side. That's because as you look at the body, the heart is laid out so that my right is over here, my right atrium will be on the right side, my left atrium will be on the left side. But as you're looking at it, my right atrium is to the left, my left atrium is to the right. So we're looking at it from the front of the heart. So we're talking about it's oriented to the body of the person whose heart it is. So the right atrium. So this is the right atrium. Okay, and it is, again, high in carbon dioxide, low in oxygen. That's why I have it being blue. Usually blood that is high in oxygen is red. Blood that is low in oxygen has a bluish or purplish color. And the atrium is just a receiving chamber. It brings the heart in, the blood in from the heart. And actually it travels through the major vein here, which is the vena cava. All right. And it goes through if you take anatomy, you're going to have to know all the valves and everything, but you don't need to know that here. It goes from the right atrium down to the right ventricle. Right ventricle is a fairly thick-walled, actually. You'll see it when we look at the model. But it's the chamber that pumps the blood out into the lungs. Okay, and it travels through the pulmonary artery. All right, now in the lungs, it's going to be the carbon dioxide is going to go down because it's going to get rid of the carbon dioxide, and the oxygen is going to go up because the oxygen is being picked up by the from the oxygen being picked up from the lungs and brought into the blood. All right, from there, it's going to go back to the pulmonary, and you don't need to know the pulmonary artery or pulmonary vein, but that's what it is. The pulmonary vein is going to go back to the heart through into the left atrium. So this is the left atrium. And the left atrium receives the blood from the lungs, high in oxygen. That's why it's red. And again, it's left atrium because it's oriented to the person you're looking at, and you're looking at it from the front. So their left is on your right. Okay. Then it's going to go down to the left ventricle, and this is the left ventricle. Now this is a very ventricle. Sorry about that. There we go. A very thick-walled chamber, because it's got to be really muscular, because it's got to pump the blood from that left ventricle to the rest of the body, up to your head, out to your arms, down to your feet, and all the other organs. So it's going to be really, really thick walled, and that when it beats, it's going to squeeze the blood out at really, really high pressure, and it's going to leave this chamber through the aorta. Okay, and it's going to go to the body. And again, it's high in oxygen, it's low in carbon dioxide. So anytime that's coming from the body until it gets to the lungs, low in oxygen, high in carbon dioxide. Once it's gotten to the lungs, the oxygen is back into the blood or put in the blood. Carbon dioxide is removed from the blood. And so it's going to be high in oxygen, low in carbon dioxide until it gets to the body. Now, I realize that looks very, very confusing, and it could be. So let's try drawing it a little bit differently. You could look at that last slide and think it's very, very complex, and it really isn't. It's just a circle if you think about it. We have the body over here, and we have the lungs over here. What we need to do is put everything between those two. So we have the right atrium and the right ventricle. Down here, we have the left atrium and the left ventricle. Okay, and it's just a matter of thinking how the blood goes. The blood is going to be come this way, right atrium, then it's going to travel to the right ventricle, and then it's going to the lungs. From the lungs, it's going to go to the left atrium, left ventricle, and back to the body. You just got to remember where's the oxygen. The oxygen here is going to be low in oxygen. This one's going to be high in oxygen. Coming from the lungs, picks up the oxygen, leaving the body low in oxygen. This one's going to be high in carbon dioxide, because the body's put the carbon dioxide in. This is going to be low in carbon dioxide. It's just a circle. It goes, around again, around in, from the body, high in carbon dioxide, low in oxygen, comes around this way to the lungs. From the lungs, it's going to pick up the oxygen and get rid of the carbon dioxide. What you have to remember is that it goes from the body right and then left. It's same thing. It's same exact thing that you here. Okay? So, all right, this is the heart. You can see in this case the vena cava, which is over here. This is the vena cava. And you also need to know this is the aorta. Okay, so this is the aorta, and this is the vena cava. Now you can see the vena cava over here, you can see the aorta over here, but those are the parts of the heart that you need to know. All right, going to the next one. This is an interior. This is where you're going to need to know. You need to know this. This is what are the parts here? Again, remember that as you look at the heart, you're looking at the person's left and the right, and they're going to be opposite of where yours are. This is the right atrium. All right, this is where the blood gathers, and then it goes down to the right ventricle. And from there, it's pumped out to the lungs. Then from the lungs, it's going to travel into the left atrium and the left ventricle. And you can see how thick this muscle is right here, because it's got to pump all this blood here up through this valve here. It's going to go under there, out through here, out to the aorta, into the rest of the body. And it's got to pump it under a lot of pressure. It goes through the arteries. If you cut an artery, if somebody's injured an artery, the blood literally will squirt. If it's a big artery, will squirt 3 or 4 feet across a room. Okay, maybe only 2 or 3, but it will squirt across the room, and it'll squirt with a great deal of pressure, because every time the heart beats, this muscle contracts and squeezes all the blood that's in this area out through the aorta and gone. Done. Okay, this is the heart, same heart, inside the chest of the torso, and you can see where this is the vena cava, goes into the right atrium, to the right ventricle, travels out from there to the lungs, all right, and it actually splits back there and kind of goes that way. And then from the lungs, it's carried back into the left atrium, the left ventricle, and then it travels out here at the aorta, when the aorta is here. All right, so you kind of need that. Remember, it's that circle. You've got the lungs, the body, right atrium, left atrium, right ventricle, lungs, left atrium, left ventricle, and then back to the body. It's just that circle. That's what this is. Comes from the body, goes here, goes up to the lungs, comes down here, goes up there and back there. I'll show it to you without all the scribbles on there. Again, comes from the body, right atrium, right ventricle, out to the lungs, back from picks up the oxygen, gets rid of the carbon dioxide, left atrium, left ventricle, goes out to the aorta, and back into the vena cava. That's the circulatory system. This is a close-up of the trachea. Okay, so you have the trachea. And as we discussed in the first video, that's the windpipe. And these little lines, these white lines, are cartilage. And the cartilage is designed to keep the trachea open. You don't want it collapsing every time you take a deep breath, and it would collapse. You wouldn't be able to breathe. So there are rings of cartilage, kind of like in your nose or in your ears, that keep the shape of the trachea and prevent it from collapsing. And then this is the esophagus. Sorry about that. I guess. It would lead down to the stomach. This is where the food would come down from the mouth and go down to the stomach. Actually, it passes through there and goes to the stomach. So it goes to the. And finally, you have the mouth. And there's nothing really much to see here. You have the tongue. Okay. And then this is the hard palate. Okay. Let's see how. Yeah, hard palate. If you put your tongue against the roof of your mouth, you'll feel that it's hard. And that's the part you're feeling right here, is that hard palate. Now, if you slide your tongue back against the roof of your mouth, it gets soft. Well, that's the soft palate back here, and that's here, soft palate. Yeah, that's the parts of the mouth that you need to know. So one more time here, you have the tongue. This is the hard palate here. This is the soft palate here. Okay? All right. That's the end of the discussion. If you have any questions, make sure you see me in class. Make sure you get your diagrams labeled and defined. Make sure you're using them for studying for the test. I hope you are studying for the test. It's coming up. Hope to see you at the test. Good luck.